What do captives of war, inheritance law, and disrespectful children have to do with each other? That's the question you might ask if you started reading this week's Torah portion of Teitze. It has a lot of different laws that seem disjointed, all put next to each other. It begins by saying, when you go out to war and return with the spoils of war, in the ancient world that included captives. And so if a soldier sees a beautiful woman and he wants to marry her, there's a procedure for that. It includes giving her 30 days to mourn the parents that she's just lost when she was captured in war. Then it says that if a man is married to 2 women, which in the ancient world was okay, and one wife he loves and one wife he hates, and the wife that he hates has the oldest son, then that oldest son inherits still twice as much as all of the other kids, even if it's from the wife that he doesn't love. And if you are the parent of a wild and rebellious son, a ben sorer umoreh, a child who is so off the path that they are gluttonous and they are thieves, and no amount of love and no amount of discipline will correct their behavior, then what's supposed to happen is that you take that child to the city gate and stone them to death. And thus, says the Torah, will we remove the evil from our midst. Now, the sages in the Midrash of Sifrei say these are not separate cases. This is actually a sequence of events. When the man sees the beautiful woman and decides to marry her, they'll have a relationship. I would say that the beginning of that story is one of selfishness. The man sees the woman and he thinks that she's beautiful. It's entirely surface level. He is acting on his own impulses, his own greed and lust and selfishness, without concern for her, who has not even had, the Torah tells us, the opportunity to mourn her new life situation, to mourn the loss of everything that she's had, including her family and her parents. But he'll take her and he'll marry her anyway. No one will be surprised when that marriage turns sour and she becomes the hated wife in the situation of the hated and the loved wife. And the child of that marriage, we wouldn't be surprised if that child ends up having behavioral issues. He is not happy with his parents and their relationship and isn't able to give and doesn't want to give the respect that one might hope to have from a child to a parent. And so that child becomes the ben sorer umoreh. Now, already in the Talmud, almost 2,000 years ago, the rabbis take that case of the wayward and rebellious son and they limit it. They say, well, it's a son and not a daughter. And it can't be a full-grown adult because then the way they react to the parents is not the same. And it can't be a child because a child isn't responsible for their actions. So it's a small window in age and a very specific circumstance and very specific way that the parents are. And at the end of the day, they say, we've ruled it off out of the cases of possibility. It's off the books. It can't happen. Lo haya velo atid liot. And that is a lesson for us also, because we can sometimes go through life and see the actions that we take as separate in different circumstances when they might be connected. And those actions can lead to strife if we don't see the chain of events as they're occurring. If what we're trying to do is remove the circumstance where the bad thing happens, as we do in the ben sorer umoreh, we don't want children being stoned to death. That's bad. Well, then we need to go back to the start. We need to go back and look at what happened with that soldier when he took her as his wife. Examine that selfishness and examine the motivations. We can do that with our actions when we're interacting with another person, whether it be through speech or through physical action. To start, number one, with the question of what is my motivation? Why am I doing this? Is it because it's only good for me? Am I being self-serving? Am I being selfish? Because the second question is, how is this going to impact the person with whom I'm interacting? What is going to happen if I do this to the people who are around me? Who's going to be affected? How will they be affected? How will they feel about that? What will be the emotional impact? It cannot be ignored. If we take every action and we examine it with that much forethought, and it means slowing down, it means taking time to do so and say, what will happen? When we examine our actions with that forethought, we can eliminate the situation from the beginning rather than at the end and say, I can do better than this. I will think about what my actions do to impact others. When we act that way, we will surely remove the evil from our midst. Shabbat Shalom.